watching A News. I'm Nadia Jani. Here are your top stories. Gazans continue to journey back home a day after the ceasefire as Israelis await hostages' release. Trump threatens to impose an additional 100% tariff on China. And the EU's new border check system comes into effect on Sunday. It's now the second day of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Israeli forces have begun pulling back from Gaza, and thousands of displaced Palestinians are making their way home. The deal, brokered by the United States, includes the exchange of hostages and prisoners, as well as a major surge in humanitarian aid.
In Gaza, the guns have fallen silent for a second day and people are on the move once again. Thousands of displaced families are returning north, pushing carts and carrying their belongings through the rubble, hoping to find what's left of their homes. According to Gaza's civil defense agency, around 300,000 people have already returned to Gaza City since the truce began, but with no tents or houses available to shelter them. The agency says nearly 10,000 people remain missing across the territory.
Praise be to God. My daughter has a fracture in her skull. She was wounded in the war. God willing, this will be the last of our suffering. We are very happy the war has stopped.
The ceasefire brokered by the United States and finalized after days of talks in Egypt took effect at noon on Friday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it one of our greatest achievements. Under the agreement, Hamas has 72 hours to release all remaining Israeli hostages and return the bodies of those killed. In return, Israel will free around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees, including 250 serving long sentences. Israeli troops have withdrawn from major urban areas but remain stationed across roughly half the enclave as part of the first phase of the US-led peace plan. In Khan Yunis, many who returned found nothing standing. Among them, Salwa Sharab, who says her home was completely wiped out.
We went to see the house. We did not find a house. Everything was erased. No shelter, no home. All our life's work is gone.
Hundreds of aid trucks are now crossing into Gaza daily, carrying food, fuel and medical supplies. The UN's Palestinian Aid Agency says it has enough food to feed every Palestinian in Gaza for 3 months, but warns distribution remains critical to controlling famine. To monitor the ceasefire, a 200-member multinational task force coordinated by the US Central Command is being formed with participation expected from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey and the UAE. It will oversee the implementation of the deal and ensure aid reaches civilians. Meanwhile, Hamas-run police have redeployed in areas vacated by Israeli troops, aiming to restore order in markets and residential zones. The ceasefire marks the first step in a 20-point peace framework that envisions Gaza's demilitarization, reconstruction, and eventual transfer of governance to a reformed Palestinian Authority.
Turning to the US, where 18 people are missing and feared dead after a powerful explosion ripped through a military explosive facilities in Tennessee. Authorities say the blast completely destroyed the building and left little behind. The explosion happened early Friday morning at Accurate Energetic Systems, about 50 miles west of Nashville. Officials say multiple fatalities are confirmed, though the exact number remains unclear. Investigators are working to determine what caused the blast. Staying with the United States and China, where trade tensions are heating up once again as President Trump threatens new tariffs on Beijing. He says the move is a response to Beijing tightening its grip on critical mineral exports.
US President Donald Trump has reignited the trade war with China, threatening to impose an additional 100% tariff on Chinese imports starting next month. The move comes after Beijing tightened its export controls on rare earth minerals, critical materials used in cars, smartphones, and advanced technology. In a series of social media posts, Trump accused China of taking an extraordinarily aggressive position and trying to hold the world captive by restricting the supply of key resources. Under the new measures, the US will add a 100% tariff on Chinese goods, on top of what they already pay now by the 1st of November. The changes could see the overall cost of Chinese goods in America rise by nearly a third compared with the start of the year. China, which dominates global production of rare earth elements, has not yet formally responded. But analysts warn the move could severely strain the fragile economic truce between the two powers. The leaders of both countries are expected to meet in South Korea this month, but it's now unclear whether those discussions will go ahead as planned.
Whether or not those talks take place is anyone's guess, but for now the Chinese public have been reacting to what Trump has said, some with great concern, while others are confident in China's self-sufficiency. Here's more.
People in Beijing are urging calm and expressing confidence in China's self-sufficiency after US President Donald Trump escalated the trade war.
And we'll see what happens.
On Friday, Trump threatened a new 100% tariff on Chinese exports to the US, along with new export controls on any and all critical software set to take effect by November 1st, just days before existing tariff relief expires. Some Beijing residents have voiced concern, saying that an economic confrontation could eventually create instability for both countries.
Honestly, I think if the two countries keep fighting like this, it'll only hurt both sides in the long run. It's bad for China and it's bad for the US. More harm than good. In the end, peace is what matters most.
She also pointed out worries about how the trade tensions could affect Chinese students abroad.
If we're thinking about studying abroad with him, Trump, constantly stirring things up like this, we get worried too. If we go to the US, will our personal safety or our property be at risk? So we might end up choosing not to go there.
The measures come in response to China tightening controls on rare earth minerals, essential for technology manufacturing, effectively ending the fragile truce between the world's two largest economies. Some locals remain reassured that China can manage on its own.
I think for most people it still comes down to everyday necessities, food, daily supplies, that sort of thing. In those areas, setting aside the high-end products, our country is capable of being self-sufficient. As for high-end goods, I think the Chinese market now also has some ability to withstand risks and compete with the US. They have advanced manufacturing, but so do we.
For now, Beijing residents are watching closely, but with strong belief that diplomacy and domestic resilience will prevent the conflict from escalating further.
Now to France, where President Emmanuel Macron has reappointed Sébastien Lecornu as Prime Minister on Friday. Lecornu, whose resignation was accepted on Monday, just weeks after he took office, is now tasked with forming a new cabinet, Macron's office said in a statement. His return came as a surprise after Lecornu announced on national TV he was not chasing the job and his mission is over. It's still not certain whether he will be able to form a government and faces a deadline on Monday to put next year's budget before Parliament. And that shocking reappointment decision has been met with some weariness from the French public. On the streets of Paris, many doubt it will bring any real change. Here's what some had to say.
Skepticism grew in Paris on Saturday after news broke that Sébastien Lecornu would return as Prime Minister. While the government says it's a move for stability, some feel it just means more of the same.
It gives me a feeling of incomprehension and weariness. I don't know what more he can do in 48 hours than in the 4 previous weeks.
I think it will be the same thing. We currently have a government that's unstable, and I think we'll see the same again. Unless the formula changes or we return to the ballot box, things will stay stuck. As long as Macron doesn't listen, it will be difficult. It will always be the same.
Amid ongoing social and economic strain, many doubt Le Cornu's return will bring meaningful change.
He left, and now he's come back. It's a big question mark. Does he still have his files? I don't know if he can do more to improve the French economy and all that. Time will tell. But if he left, he left. It doesn't matter if he comes back. He's already toast.
With trust in leadership faltering and no clear political breakthrough in sight, the road ahead remains uncertain. The response to this appointment will unfold in the days ahead.
Turning to the war in Ukraine now, Russia launched overnight missile and drone strikes, cutting power in Kyiv and 8 other regions. At least 5 people were killed and 17 others were injured. Officials report that over 1 million homes and businesses lost power and Kyiv's metro system was disrupted. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia deliberately timed the attack during bad weather to reduce air defense effectiveness by 20 to 30%. He added that over 200 energy facilities now require protection and urged allies to increase support ahead of winter. US President Donald Trump said NATO should consider expelling Spain over its failure to meet defense spending commitments. This dispute centers on Madrid's refusal to raise its military budget to 5% of its GDP, a target agreed by NATO members in June. Speaking at the White House with Finnish President Alexander Stubb, Trump said European leaders should pressure Spain to fulfill its obligations. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has rejected the target, saying it conflicts with his country's social priorities. Staying on this subject, Spain's Defence Minister Margarita Robles has defended her country's commitment to NATO. In June, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez rejected NATO's proposal from member states to increase their defence spending. Here to discuss this is with me in more detail is former Spanish diplomat Gustavo Arresti. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you. My first question is, why has Trump decided to call out Spain's military spending and possibly throw them out of NATO?
Well, first, let's start with the latter. Spain cannot be thrown out of NATO without unanimity of all the members and without a 1-year warning, and that's not going to happen. Let's be very clear. I'm not in favor of the government of Spain at all. But the membership of Spain in NATO is something that is a state matter. It is much more serious than just the temporary government of Spain, which in this unfortunate case is a very hard left-wing government that is really hurting Spain's image in the world and hurting the Spanish citizen in their everyday management. Second, the first part of your question. Has Spain really rejected the overall commitment of the 32 member states of NATO to increase their defense investment, because I would call it investment and not expenditure, to 5%? No, because NATO works on the basis of unanimity. So what the Spanish government has done, as is very much the case very often, too often if you ask me, is in fact that they have lied. The Spanish government did not oppose it in the NATO summit of The Hague. Had it been so, it wouldn't have been approved. Impossible, because it wouldn't have had the unanimity. The problem is that the Spanish Prime Minister has said that he will not do it. Well, if he admitted or accepted the commitment that all 32 member states aimed at, then he is obliged by it too. And third, it is only logical that Europe is more implicated and more engaged in its own defense. It is a necessity. Defense is not an expenditure. When people say that 21st century defense does not rely just on submarines, boats, helicopters, or fighter jets, they're wrong. It is basic to everything. But on top of that, we need cyber warfare, and we need drones and defense against drones. I strongly back the need to go up to 5%, and I condemn the propaganda and the irresponsibility of the narrative of the Spanish government.
Well, that's quite interesting in that sense, because obviously the Spanish Prime Minister has said that he has legitimacy in regards to financial capabilities, because he needs to focus on the social aspects going on in the home country. And he also stated in June that NATO said that he's exempt, that the country is exempt from the 5% spend. So why is this now an issue, do you think?
Well, it's an issue because, of course, everybody has accepted it. And we are seeing that the countries that are closer to Russia and feel the Russia menace and threat are being very serious about their defense investment, be it the Baltic states, be it Poland, be it Finland, be it Sweden, be it Norway. Even Germany has committed an extra 100 billion euros, which is unprecedented in a country that has been so reluctant to participate in the overall structure of NATO, but has increasingly done much more in the collective security of all of us. So right now we need to understand that when the war is far away from our borders, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is far away from our borders, because one day we will have problems coming from the south, and we will want our eastern and northern allies to help us when that is the case. And it's not going to be long when that happens. Let us not forget that some countries have very complicated governments, be it Tunisia, be it Algeria, that are the borders with the Sahel, are the borders with Al-Qaeda in the Sahel, with Daesh, with Boko Haram coming from Nigeria, from south to north. And this is going to be a reality that we have to face in no time. We have to show our solidarity and support to those that are now threatened. So those that are now threatened show their solidarity and support with us when we are threatened in the very near future.
And just to play devil's advocate on the other side, some may say that actually the Prime Minister is actually focusing on issues at home, which is where the money needs to stay, because of what's happening in Spain and because of, immigration and a number of different issues. Do you think that is the right, priority that he needs to take, as much as the call out for the 5% GDP needs to be attained? But he said that there are stronger priorities at home.
Well, let me tell you something that is very clear, that unfortunately is not well enough known abroad. Spain has not had a budget in 4 years. We are still operating on the budget of the previous legislature, of the previous term, the previous parliament, which is outrageous by any standards. It is completely anti-democratic. The Prime Minister of Spain cannot play with words and cannot be as irresponsible as he is showing to be when he is now saying that there are priorities in Spain that cannot be taken care of, when that is not the case. Had he been able to approve a budget, then everything would have been possible, bearing in mind that Spain, because of the present situation, especially inflation in the past, and because of special circumstances that are surrounding, for example, VAT indirect taxation, Spain has had access to 30-something billion extra euros of income that they don't know what to do with. So what it is completely irresponsible to do is that when Spain is a country that has 9,000 kilometers of coastline, and I repeat, 9,000 kilometers of coastline. We are the southwest border frontier of the European Union and NATO. And we are a strategic country for the security of the rest of us. How can we reject the purchase of F-35s that are the only plane that we can put on our on our aircraft carrier, and we are going to build a second one. What are we going to put on those aircraft carriers? The only thing that can go on them is an F-35. We cannot put ideology on top or prioritize ideology over security and national and collective interests. This is completely irresponsible and unacceptable.
Well, thank you so much for joining me and for your insights, Mr. Aristegui. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
From Sunday, non-EU citizens and British nationals will have to go through new biometric checks when travelling to Europe. Under the new rules, entrants to the Schengen area will now register fingerprints and facial scans, marking a major shift in border security and management. Here's more.
Starting Sunday, travel rules for non-EU nationals, including British citizens, will change as the European Union launches its long-delayed biometric entry-exit system. The new system replaces manual passport stamping with biometric registration. First-time visitors to the Schengen area will have to scan their passport, provide fingerprints, and have their facial image captured. The EU says the EES will streamline border checks, enhance security, and reduce identity fraud, while ensuring better monitoring of visa-free stays. The rollout will be gradual, with full implementation expected by April 2026. Authorities acknowledge that delays and confusion are likely during the transition.
As a customer, as a passenger, you just come with your car. You have, like before, your passport with you, and same for your family members, and then you are just guided through ES. You go in front of a kiosk, you give your passport, and you only have a picture of your face taken. You give your fingerprints the first time, and that's it. That's very simple. Less than 2 minutes maximum.
For UK travellers, the biggest changes will occur before departure. French border officials will conduct Schengen entry registration at Dover, Folkestone Eurotunnel, and London St Pancras Eurostar. Checks will begin with freight and coach passengers this week, expanding to cars in November and to Eurotunnel passengers by the end of the year. The UK government advises travellers to allow extra time, especially during peak periods.
This is about digitalization of our ability to travel anywhere, anytime. So this is indeed the first step of a process. It's going to be expanding next year. Again, it's very much about global best practice, so that all ports of entry are connected digitally, and very, very critically, they're connected through the cloud system. So if there are any breaches of security, it's caught very quickly. Equally, if there are surges in travel, they can surge and increase the service by scaling it up. So this is very much a first step of many towards our ability of international travelers to cross more swiftly and safely.
Under the new rules, children under 12 will only have a photo taken and registration is free. After initial enrolment, returning travellers will pass through using facial recognition only. The system will also track how long non-EU visitors stay to enforce the 90 days in 180 rule, crucial for post-Brexit UK citizens. While the EU stresses that privacy safeguards are in place,
There are always going to be concerns about data privacy, but interestingly, those concerns are actually concerns that are not needing to be worried about, because all of this is to keep us safer rather than the other way, because ultimately when we're looking at pure passports and the manual processes, there are risks of criminal intent, there's risk of identity theft, and there's risk equally of those systems being breached, and as we've seen with some airports, the entire network dropping. So by doing this, we're minimizing and mitigating against those risks.
Some travellers remain concerned. EU officials say border staff can pause checks temporarily if queues become too long. The real test is expected in 2026, when the system will be fully operational and millions of travellers will use it. The EES is part of a broader border modernisation effort. Its companion system, ETIAS, will launch in late 2026, requiring non-EU nationals to apply online, submit personal details, and pay a €20 fee. Authorizations will be valid for 3 years or until passport expiry. The EU says both systems aim to improve security and simplify border control.
Turning to the region now, Azerbaijani troops are set to take part in military exercises in Turkey. The announcement was made today by the Turkish Ministry of National Defense. Zeki Aktok said the Eternity Peace Support Operation will be held from the 13th to the 24th of October in the city of Kars, with the participation of Azerbaijan and Georgia. Turning to Central Asia now, and Uzbekistan is getting ready to launch a new phase in its energy partnership with Russia. Both sides plan to sign a contract for the construction of the country's first large-scale nuclear power plant by March 2026. Our correspondent Sevil Rajapova has more from Tashkent.
Uzbekistan and Russia are advancing plans to build the country's first nuclear power plant. The plant will be located in the far-east district of Jizakh region and is expected to become one of the largest infrastructure projects in the country's modern history. The project includes 4 reactors, 2 large-scale capacity VVER 1000 units of the latest generation, and 2 smaller RITM 200N reactors, each producing around 55 megawatts of electricity. Construction is expected to begin shortly after the contract is finalized, with development to proceed in several stages. Authorities claim the project will prioritize local involvement. Up to 70% of the workforce and contractors will be from Uzbekistan, creating around 20,000 new jobs. Alongside the plant, supporting infrastructure such as housing, schools and public facilities will be developed in surrounding areas. For reference, gas supply from Russia to Central Asia, including Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, have risen up by about 15% in the first 8 months of 2025, compared to the same period in 2024. Also in 2024, Gazprom delivered 5.64 billion cubic meters of gas to Uzbekistan, up from 1.28 billion in 2023. Experts believe the nuclear power will complement these efforts by diversifying Uzbekistan's energy mix, reducing reliance on imported fuel, and ensuring a more stable power supply for industries and households alike. It is Sevil Rajapova reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, A News.
And Russia's nuclear partnerships extend also to Iran, where both countries have worked on a deal that lays down long-term cooperation and includes the production of nuclear energy. Our correspondent Tiraji Sharilu reports.
Less than 2 weeks after Iran and Russia signed documents in the Russian capital on nuclear energy production, Tehran and Moscow have now discussed beginning the construction of nuclear power reactors. According to the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, its chief Mohammad Islami met with the Deputy Director for International Affairs of State Atomic Energy Corporation Rosatom, Nikolai Spassky, in Tehran on Wednesday, 8th of October. It said that they held detailed negotiations on developing small modular reactors. These can generate 300 megawatts of nuclear power. They also discussed the construction of 1,250 megawatt reactors. The move comes after the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership was signed in January by both countries to improve their ties. It came into force last Thursday and will be valid for 20 years. There are 74 articles addressing technology, information and cybersecurity, peaceful nuclear energy collaboration, counter-terrorism measures, regional cooperation, environmental issues, and combating money laundering and organized crime. Previously, Islami had signed 2 documents in September regarding small modular reactors and the Iran Hormuz major nuclear power plant project, where 4 1,250 megawatt reactors will be built at a value of more than $25 billion. The Atomic Energy Organization of Iran also announced that the Rosatom CEO, Alexei Likhachev, will be visiting Tehran soon to follow up on the agreed issues, including progress in the construction of Units 2 and 3 of Bushehr nuclear power plant. Unit 1 is the country's first ever 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plant and has been connected to the national grid since 2012 based on an agreement with Rosatom. The Russian firm took over the project after the German Siemens company withdrew from its 1974 contract with Iran following the Islamic Revolution, which ousted the pro-West Shah monarchy in 1979. Turaj Shiralilu in Tehran, A-News TV.
Uzbekistan will host the first ever Peace Forum on Monday. The event will bring together hundreds of leaders, experts and civil society members from Central Asia, Europe and beyond. It aims to showcase peace-building successes in the Fergana Valley, a region once marked by ethnic tensions and cross-border conflicts. Attendees will discuss regional stability, cross-border cooperation and community drive and progress. Kazakhstan's president has urged countries in the region to join forces in tackling urgent environmental challenges. He stressed the importance of protecting the Caspian Sea's water resources, which are shrinking and putting local ecosystems and communities at risk. Fariza Kalimazana reports.
Kazakhstan's president is calling for urgent action to save the Caspian Sea. Water levels in the world's largest enclosed body of water are rapidly declining, a crisis that, according to Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, requires immediate intervention. Speaking at the second Central Asia-Russia summit in Dushanbe, President Tokayev stressed that implementing the interstate program for the preservation of Caspian water resources must become a top priority for all countries in the region. President Tokayev says Central Asian countries face unprecedented environmental challenges requiring coordinated government action. He highlighted the urgent need to address the worsening state of transboundary rivers in the Caspian Sea. He also proposed the coordinated interstate program and the creation of a Council of Ministers for Environmental Affairs with Central Asian states and Russia to better manage regional ecological risks. The Caspian region is facing a serious environmental crisis. Wildlife is dying in large numbers, pollution is spreading, and local communities are under growing pressure. All of this is caused by the sharp drop in water levels, and today the Caspian Sea has fallen below its lowest recorded level, now measuring less than -29 meters according to the Baltic Height system. In Kazakhstan, which borders 29% of the Caspian coastline, is witnessing severe shrinkage in the northeastern part of the sea. Since 2001, the shoreline has receded by over 37 kilometers. And increasingly, there are fears that the Caspian could face the same devastating fate as the Aral Sea. Fariza Kalimurzina, Almaty, A-News.
Thank you for joining me. That's your news update for now. Make sure you stay tuned to A-News for more. Take care.